Alrighty, so let's say you're doing an RE engine mod. In my case, I'm going to be showing off a DMC5 and let's say you want to add a custom material. So in this case, I want to add this hat, this flower crown, as its own material. So the process for doing that is actually, it's pretty simple. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to open up the mesh that you're going to want to add the custom material to. So in my case, I'm going to add it to her head. So I'm just going to open up the root, which is, you know, the armature for her. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to, let me just drag that open. I am going to click the material I want to add as a root. Then I'm going to control click the armature. And I'm going to right click and then parent with empty groups. And that'll just make it so that way it's a part of the armature, so when the bones that move the head moves, the flower crown will move with it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rig it to the head. So this is just going to go through that pretty simply, pretty quickly, just because, you know, it's not that important to know how to do this part. I have a whole other tutorial for rigging and the like. This is just for adding, custom materials and meshes to your RE engine mesh. So I'm just gonna rig that to the head real quick. Alrighty. And then what we're going to start by doing is I'm going to copy this. This is the last submesh name on here. And I'm going to paste it and rename the custom mesh to whatever I want. In this case, I'm going to call it m_flower. That's going to be the material name. I'm also going to just make sure that it's using a different submesh number. I'm going to press enter, and it moves all the way to the bottom of the list. And so for the most part, you're actually pretty much all done with the 3D stuff. So next what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to open up Silvers's MDF Manager. So I already have this open. And then you're going to want to find the MDFs that you're going to want to edit. So in this case, I'm going to be editing the head MDF for Trish, and then the head event MDF. Oh, did not mean to do that. And the reason why I'm just doing Trish is actually just because she has an easier MDF to edit. So once you have all your MDFs loaded, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the library over here. You're going to want to click add. And then you're going to want to go to wherever you have your modding stuff. So for me, I have it in, you know, my texture mod folder and my whips. And I'm just going to choose the default head MDF. And so what this does is when you click on this drop-down menu, it'll show you all of the different MDFs materials that are in here. So the different material slots. So once you have that drop-down menu all selected, you're going to just choose any material. So all of these here are the different materials that the MDF has. I'm going to choose the eyebrow, and I'm going to drag it over here, and you'll see that it added another eyebrow material. And I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to rename m_eyebrow to m_flower. And then for the base metal map, that's going to be the ALBM map, or ALBD if you're working in one of the newer Resident Evil games. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep the same file path, and I'm just going to call it flower_ALBM. And you can actually use this to make the material read from whatever file path you want to. If you wanted to, you could put a folder in character, call it character, and then what you could do is you could just do character. You could call like a folder like fuck shit or whatever the fuck you want, and then you can put the material in there. So it could be like PLO600. In this case, it would be _flower ALBM.text. You could literally put it wherever the hell you want to, as long as it has the right path and file name. But you're going to want to just change that path or file name for every single one of these maps. So these are just all the different textures. The diffuse map, the normal map, and the occlusion map. So, flower. And I'm just going to save that. I'm just going to go into File, Save. And then we're all good to go there. And then I'm just going to save it again, save before closing. And then what you can actually do is, since, you know, you don't want to copy over that again, you're just going to open up the edited 01 MDF that we just did. And there's the new flower material. Just drag that over. And now you're all good to save that. And yes, save it before closing. And we're all good to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to export the model. Okay, so once you have the materials all sorted out, what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to go back into Blender. Just select all your meshes and the armature. Go to File, Export. And if you don't have the REmesh Noesis wrapper, which is basically a plugin for Blender that lets you sort of skip opening up Noesis, you're going to want to export to FBX. And then what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to find your file. So in my case, it would be the Trish Flower Crown. And then in here, head event. And then I'm just going to delete this head here because that doesn't belong. And I'm just going to add the dot mesh at the end because that's what that is. And so you're going to want to be sure that you have armature and mesh selected here. You're going to have selected objects checked. You're going to have bake animation unchecked. And you're going to want to be sure that add leaf bones is not checked. And after that, you're good to export to FBX. And now what you want to do is you want to open up the file. And you can see here that we have the FBX all good to go here. Is just open it up in Noesis. And then you're just going to want to export that. Export it to whatever game mesh you're working with. So in my case, I'm doing DMC5. If you're doing RE2 or RE3, Monster Hunter Rise, RE8, whatever, just choose that game. But for me, it's going to be DMC5. And before you export it, you're going to want to click this Advanced Options text box here. And you're going to click Rewrite. And what that'll do is that'll basically kind of make a new model from scratch using the information from the model you imported. And it's going to use that to make a new material count and a new material name and all that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to close it and I'm going to refresh, check at the mesh out here, just double check that everything looks good here. And it looks like it does look all right. So we're actually good to put that in the game. So I'm just going to cut to me putting everything into the game where it belongs. You know, once I'm all in the game, I'm going to cut to there. One real quick thing I just want to remind everyone of is, you know, when you are putting your files into the mod, be sure to put the MDFs that we edited in, because that's the whole reason we edited them. Alrighty, so if we take a look at in the game, we can see that it's working all fine. The new custom material is loading pretty much flawlessly. So yeah, that's pretty much how to get a custom material on an RE Engine mesh. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or reach out to me in any of the modding discords I'm in. I'll leave everything that you need down in the description, including the MDF manager and Noesis. So yeah.